Jazz Talk, Vibraphone with Fluffy Records. So you guys might be wondering, Fluffy, what made you want to make this video? And quite honestly, it was a couple months ago when I bought a particular album that I'll be showing off in a bit. But yeah, I just started to listen to more Vibraphone musicians, and I was like, what the heck, I might as well show you guys what I have in my collection in terms of jazz vibraphone musicians, vibist, vibraphonist, whatever you prefer to call it, right? So let's begin. So I want to start off with the earlier stuff that I have and then work my way up to the more modern vibraphonist or vibist musicians. So starting off with one of the earlier, if not the earliest, musicians that recorded with the instrument, the vibraphone, Lionel Hampton, the Lionel Hampton Quartet. This is pretty much what prompted me into wanting to make this video, and man, was I impressed with this session, and the musicians on here are freaking spectacular. So yeah, Lionel Hampton, one of, if not the first cats to record with or play with the vibraphones in terms of jazz music. Lionel Hampton was probably born in the early 20th century, probably like 1908 or somewhere around that time period. Lionel Hampton, heard about him several times in the past, but it was definitely a moment of when I bought this record and Hamp and Getz, Lionel Hampton with co-leading with Stan Getz. I was like, man, I gotta revisit Lionel Hampton because his stuff on these records especially kick ass. I mean, Lionel Hampton here on this record, by the way, this is on the Clef Records, done by Norman Granz. The quartet consists of Lionel Hampton on vibraphone, Oscar Peterson on piano, Buddy Rich on drums, and Ray Brown on bass. This is one that I highly, highly recommend people get. If not, stream it first, because when you hear Lionel Hampton and Oscar Peterson together, it is something else, especially Oscar Peterson. I've mentioned this in the past. Oscar Peterson on here is on a different level of playing. So yeah, this is one to get. The other one, Stan Getz and Hampton, this is also a freaking fantastic recording. This one, I would say, you get more Stan Getz, but you also hear Hamp playing very, very nice, very cool jazz, as people like to say. But don't sleep on these Norman Granz records with Lionel Hampton. These are spectacular. So Lionel Hampton is the first one I want to show here. Okay, another cat that I forgot that I had a record of his, and quite honestly, I when I first bought this record, I thought I was gonna, start digging into his more of his recordings and stuff, but unfortunately, I haven't done that. But now I got the chance to revisit this album. This is an early one as well, but this is Red Norvo, another cat vibist early on that brought the vibraphone into the jazz scene. Again, around the same time, probably born around the same time Lionel Hampton was around. But yeah, Red Norvo, what can I say about this? This is so spectacular. I mean, he's playing with jazz legends: Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Teddy Wilson, Slam Stewart. Who else is on here? I mean, if you look at Red Norvo's like career, he went on to play with legends. I mean, Billie Holiday, Frank Sinatra, Eddie Martin. I feel like his playing style is more, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but his playing style is more like harsh, not harsh, but like you can hear more of the of like his mallet when he touches the thing. But Yeah, what this is an interesting one. So I guess this is one that has material from the 40s, later reissued in 12-inch format, and side 1 consists of the original first masters, side 2 consists of what we call here nowadays alternate takes. So this is an interesting one. This is the only Red Norvo recording or record that I have of his. I haven't done a good job buying more Red Norvo, but I highly recommend Red Norvo. Um, yeah, let me know down in the comments if you guys have any Red Norvo. Okay, so these next cats are from the era of when Red Norvo and Lionel Hampton were already, I want to say massive, right? This is the 50s. These cats were around. Well, one of them was tragically died early on, but let me show you guys the first one. What I'm talking about. This is Eddie Costa Quintet on Mode Records. Another vibraphonist. He also played piano. Some people say, from what I've read, is his playing style from the vibraphones is very much like him playing the piano. This is an interesting recording by that. It is on Mode Records. If you guys are not familiar with Mode Records, it was a label based in the West Coast, and you will be surprised by the lineups that this label had. I mean, the lineup here is incredible. Eddie Costa on piano and vibes, Art Farmer on trumpet, Phil Woods on alto sax, Teddy Kotick on bass, and Paul Motion on drums. This is one of Eddie Costa's records to get, and unfortunately, he did not put out a lot of stuff because he tragically died around 1962 due to a car crash in New York. And the stuff that was put out by him is incredible. I highly recommend another one of his that I don't even have myself, but it's one that where it's him, and it features Bill Evans on piano, and again Paul Motion on drums, and you sort of get this like the Bill Evans trio wise, although it isn't a trio format record. It's I believe a quartet. But yeah, this is how it came out. Eddie Costa Quintet. Check out Eddie Costa on Mode. Let me show you guys a couple more Mode records that I have here. So this is a very, very awesome English jazz vibraphonist or vibist. This is Victor Feldman, spectacular vibist. He was not only played vibraphone, but he also played piano and other percussion instruments. But this is one that I was able to find on Mode Records, and I think the only, from what I've looked around my collection, the only record that I have of his as a session leader. Another one on Mode that has a killer lineup. Um, this one is, I think, one of the harder ones to get. But this has Victor Feldman on vibes, Frank Rosolino on trombone, Harold Land on tenor sax, Carl Perkins on piano, Leroy Vinegar on bass, and Stan Levy on drums. This is a 1957 recording. Victor Feldman had a number of records where he played the vibes. I think he did some on contemporary. You can find one where it's him and Scott LaFaro and another cat. Later on in the 70s, Victor Feldman went on to be to work with the Beach Boys, Johnny Cash, Steely Dan. He was a part of the Asia album and a couple other Steely Dan albums. When it comes to Victor Feldman on vibes, it is absolutely spectacular. I mean, this guy knew how to play. Okay, here's another one that I found quite interesting because of the lineup, and this is heavily, vibraphone. This is on Mode, a jazz band ball, and guess who is featured on here? We have Terry Gibbs, we have Victor Feldman, and we have Larry Bunker. All three of them play the vibraphones, and two of them also play xylophone, and of course Terry Gibbs uh, plays marimba. The music on here is straight heat. I cannot tell you how many times I've spun this. This is one that I would highly, highly, highly recommend listening to. Hopefully, there's the full album through streaming somehow. But this is another one, 1957. Terry Gibbs is one that I'm going to be showing a couple of his albums because I do have a couple Terry Gibbs albums. Unfortunately, I don't have any Larry Bunker. I believe Larry Bunker is a drummer, but early on he did like um, percussion instruments like the vibraphone and the xylophone. But I think Larry Bunker is more associated with the drums later on. Victor Feldman, I just don't have enough of his records, so I only showed the one on Mode. I want to say Terry Gibbs might be the first vibraphonist that I was really digging and listening to early on while I was listening to jazz, and I absolutely loved him, his playing. So I'm going to be showing you guys some of his records that I've collected over the years. It's not a lot. It's only, I think, three. So starting off with his early one, around the same time that as the three the one on Mode. This is one on Emersy. This is Terry Gibbs, self-titled, on Emersy, and this is one that I've purchased early on. I need to revisit this because I completely forgot. Right before I recorded, I was like, oh my god, I forgot to take this one out. Man, his playing style is one of my favorite in terms of the vibraphone. Another one to check out that I purchased, I think maybe either this year or later last year, on Verb. This is Terry Gibbs Quartet. That swing thing. They the quartet plays a wonderful rendition of Moanin'. Terry Gibbs on here is absolutely dynamite. His playing style is one where I prefer him in his big band. That's where I'm going to be talking about in a bit. But when he plays, smaller groups like combos, and this is the quartet format, his group right here, Pat Moran, Jimmy Bond, Gary Frommer, is something that I absolutely love. And his playing style is can be so fast driven sometimes, but sometimes he knows how to take it slow. And I gotta say, I this is one that I didn't know existed, but when I found this and I spun it for the first time, I was absolutely heat. Okay, so my story is Terry Gibbs, one of, if not the first cat in terms of vibraphonist. He was like the first one that I listened to, and I absolutely love. I associate whenever it comes to Terry Gibbs, I associate him with his big band. And for the longest time, I thought Terry Gibbs and his big band was later Terry Gibbs. But as soon as I bought a record 2 weeks ago, I was realized that I was wrong, or at least the recordings of the music that is out there that I absolutely enjoy listening to. So this is one that I picked up not long ago. Terry Gibbs Dream Band. This, by the looks of it, looks like a later album release, right? Which it is. This was put out in 1986 on Contemporary Records. Let me show you guys the disc. But I believe Fantasy had already bought the label. So 1986. I'm thinking, okay, this is later Terry Gibbs, right? I come home, I spin this record, and I notice right away that the tunes on here are some of the tunes that I'm very familiar with through streaming. And I was like, holy smokes, this is absolutely fire. I look at the album jacket and I see that it says recorded live at the Seville Hollywood, March 17th through 1959. And I'm like, 1959? What the heck? Is it, could it had been a typo? No. I go on Spotify to look at the albums, and I noticed the one that I'm very familiar with, also 1959, and I'm like, Oh my god, this entire time they had the dates online to show you guys the when the recording took place. So this entire time I thought this was later Terry Gibbs. It turns out it's early Terry Gibbs, and man, I bamboozled myself. But look at this lineup. This lineup right here is incredible, and let me tell you, the mastering on here, whoever worked on this gives two thumbs up. Two thumbs up. Because this sounds incredible. This is I highly recommend people to check this out. I highly recommend people to check out the stuff Terry Gibbs Big Band online, through Spotify, through whatever. By the way, Terry Gibbs is still with us. He's 99 years young. This album right here sounds like the musicians are in your room. It is that good. This is incredible. I am absolutely in love with this. I'm glad that I picked this up at Amoeba for $2. But yeah, I highly recommend this album. I highly recommend any of Terry Gibbs' big band albums online, because I think this is the only one they put out through vinyl format. But yeah, that is my Terry Gibbs um, vinyl showing. So now we're going to be moving on to another cat that I surprisingly have some records of his, but he's featured a lot in as a sideman. But I'm gonna keep it short. All right, so this wouldn't be a jazz vibraphone video if I hadn't included this cat right here. I mean, if he's not in any of these jazz vibraphone videos, is this really a video about jazz vibraphone? Who am I talking about? Bags. Milt Jackson. This is one of the albums that I have of his on Savoy. He does vibraphones, he does piano, and he does vocals. I think people should already be familiar that Milt Jackson plays not only vibraphones, but he also plays piano, and he does a lot of vocals early on and later on throughout his life. So, yeah, it's interesting because I think, man, I'm surprised I don't have an album of his where he only does vibes. And I'm thinking right away, like Blue Note. Maybe this Blue Note record is just vibes, him playing vibes along with the other musicians. But this is one that I got not that long ago, and I'm gonna rapid fire through these. But this is another one that features Milt Jackson. Doesn't really play a lot on here, but it's nice to have him on on some of these Savoy recordings. So this is probably later 56, 57. Here's later Milt Jackson, where he plays vibes and he sings on Pablo. So what is this album called? Soul Believer. And look at the lineup right here. Ray Brown, Cedar Walton. Man, incredible. He sings a lot on here. I remember listening to this one, and he sings a lot, but he plays wonderfully. And yeah, this is probably 1979, again on Pablo. Check out his Pablo stuff. Check out his Blue Note stuff. Check out his other stuff that I'm going to be showing you guys right here. So here's another one. Bags Groove, Miles Davis with Milt Jackson. This is an awesome recording with, look at that lineup. I mean, Sonny Rollins, Thelonious Monk, Horace Silver. But yeah, Bags Groove. I mean, you should pick up the Analog Productions. You should probably be able to find an affordable, either original or a second pressing of this. I have the Analog Productions Prestige series reissue here. Awesome stuff. They play two renditions or two. They play Bags Groove back to back, so that's nice. Let's see right here. We're getting into the MJQ, the Modern Jazz Quartet, with Milt Jackson. So we have Django. This is probably first pressing. Um, great stuff. I'm gonna Red Fire more. This is another one, Concord. This is probably a second pressing. Originally had a different cover, but this is an awesome one with Milt Jackson, John Lewis, Percy Heath, Connie Kay. Great stuff. Another one with Milt Jackson and the Modern Jazz Quartet. This is Fontessa. Pretty easy to find, I think, still these days. On Atlantic, the black silver label. Milt Jackson, one to check out. He has tons of records out there, either as a leader or as a sideman. His stuff is pretty easy to get, I would say. And of course, his later stuff on Pablo, there's a ton that I'm missing. I only have that one with him on as a leader, but yeah, Milt Jackson, Bags, awesome, if not one of the more recognizable vibists out there. The one that I think people really dig the most, maybe. I mean, he's a big one on a big jazz label, Blue Note. You knew I had to put him up there in the thumbnail with the rest of the Vibus cats. This is the one, the only. Let me get his album. Bobby Hutcherson, another freaking fantastic vibraphone player. He is more into that post bop playing style. I would say he started probably in the early '60s as in terms of him recording. I think I have an album of his I forgot to take out, but it is what it is. But this is the Music Matters 45 of Happenings. I got this one not that long ago, and yeah, it is numbered. Anyway, this is an essential to get at this point. If you don't have this, get the classic series. They recently reissued Bobby Hutcherson on Vibes. I believe he was born here in LA, but associates himself with San Francisco, or at least when he was around. Another one that Blue Note put out recently as a tone poet, I think, is this one, Total Eclipse. Bobby Hutcherson, let me tell you, him and Harold Land together, they put out a couple of records together, or at least them featured together. This is one of them. There's another one called San Francisco. There's another one that I'm going to be showing you guys in a bit, and there's one that on Mainstream that Bobby Hutcherson, or rather Harold Land, as a session leader. But this is an awesome one. Also features Chick Corea. But this is talking about Bobby Hutcherson here. Bobby Hutcherson is an excellent vibraphone player, and I really enjoy him later on through his life and playing career. Check out his videos on YouTube, or at least the ones that are put out of his interviews, and he plays very gently later on. I mean, later on you see him. It's just very sad to see, but I'm glad he lived the life, And this is my first Tone Poet purchase of the year. Man, it had been a while since I purchased a Tone Poet, but this is Bobby Hutcherson Medina with Harold Land. But yeah, this is part of the LT series. So originally released in the 80s, but the session recording took place in the 60s. What year? 1969. So we're on a time where, Bobby Hutcherson was doing his stuff with Harold Land, Medina. And let me tell you, this sounds freaking fantastic. I know I keep saying that, but this sounds stunning. I had stopped listening to Tone Poets and the reissues a while back, but when I put this one on, man, I was blown away. This sounds so incredibly good. If you haven't picked this one up yet, I highly recommend it. Bobby Hutcherson puts soul into his playing. Like, he is one where you can never go wrong with any of his recordings. Even as a sideman, you can never go wrong. He is incredible. Or he was incredible. He still is incredible. He is a jazz legend. But yeah, this is on that Liberty Records label. Bobby Hutcherson, Medina, and Bobby Hutcherson as a player. That's all I have of his as a leader. Surprising, I know. Bobby Hutcherson, Medina. check it out if you haven't already. Check out the other ones that I've showed you guys. Or it's probably a time to revisit. This next cat is another one where I would put in the same vein as Bobby Hutcherson in terms of his playing style. He plays whenever I think of post pop, I think of this musician. He is absolutely incredible. He's a master at his craft, the vibraphones. And who am I talking about here? I am talking about the one, the only Walt Dickerson. Walt Dickerson put out, I think, probably 3 records on New Jazz. This is one of them. This is his first on New Jazz. This next one, this is post bop and modal. This is pure greatness. I highly recommend this one. This is To My Queen. You know, the tapes still exist. They gotta reissue this one ASAP because this one needs that treatment. And this is on New Jazz again. Walt Dickerson, I wish I had more records of his. His stuff later on is absolutely fantastic. He did one where I think it was on Inner City or Steeplechase or both of them. But this is awesome. Some great post bop, some great modal, especially on here. Great modal. Here's another one where he is more of a sideman. But this is one with Walt Dickerson and Sun Ra. This is probably 1966 or 67. I can't remember what year this one was put out. Maybe it was early on. Maybe it was earlier than that. I can't remember the years for this one, but Walt Dickerson Quartet, Impressions of a Patch of Blue. This is a mispress, believe it or not, but this is one that you can stream online. Surprisingly, you can't. I think you can stream this one on YouTube, but I'm not sure Apple Music, Spotify, you can't stream this one for some reason, but this one you can stream on Spotify. That's the one that my streaming platform that I use. But yeah, where if you can find Walt Dickerson online, listen to him, or if you have his record, revisit his records because it is incredible. I mean, I want more Walt Dickerson in my life. I want his later stuff. He did a couple more things later on in his life that he's one of those that people, I want to say, people overlook. Hopefully more these days people are recognize him more, but yeah, Walt Dickerson, listen to him, get his stuff in your life. Here's another cat where I only have one record of his, and I know he put another record out. I'm not sure how many records he put out as a vibraphone player, but here's one of him playing vibes. This is Freddy McCoy. This is a nowadays really hard record to find, but the stuff on here is incredible. This is originally called Have Mercy. I think there was a licensing issue where they couldn't call it Spider-Man, but Have Mercy or Spider-Man by Freddy McCoy. It's an absolute gem, and another one that I don't think is gonna get a reissue. This is an interesting one. I like the playing style on here. They play the girl from Ipanema, and yeah, this is one I want to get more Freddy McCoy in my life. This is the only record I have of his, and probably the record to have in terms of Freddy McCoy. This is one cat that I'm not that familiar with in terms of his how long he lived, how much stuff was put out in terms of his discography. But I'm like many, I'm just probably only aware of Spider-Man. Well, actually, not just Spider-Man. I know there's another one out there. Can't remember what the name is, but Spider-Man is one to have. Freddy McCoy, another cat that I've been wanting more of, and this is more in the realm of free jazz. Okay, so the one that I'm talking about in terms of the associated with free jazz is a German vibraphone player called Carl Berger. This is the only record that I have of his. There's another one that I have on my top 9 want list that I still don't have on ESP, but Carl Berger, uh, vibraphone player, piano player. He probably also played percussion, but his stuff early on was vibes. And let me tell you, whenever he's playing with anyone, it is usually associated with free jazz cats, musicians. He is a monster on here. He is incredible. And the way I discovered Carl Berger was through Don Cherry, which I think he was a part of Don Cherry's group for a while. But this is Don Cherry's second album on Blue Note. This is Symphony for Improvisers with Pharoah Sanders. I think Gato Barberi is also on here. And Carl Berger, he is a monster on here. His playing style is one where I would associate him with free jazz. This is later 60s. This album is also later 60s. This is originally on Milestone, right there. And yeah, I mean, I want to say this is a somewhat hard to find, but not expensive. Whenever you find it, it's not that expensive, but is surely somewhat hard to find. It doesn't normally pop up on the secondary market. And the one that I want to find that's on ESP, I have no luck so far. So this is the one that I have so far that I truly enjoy, and I highly recommend people to check out if you're into free jazz or if you want to listen to some Carl Berger. This is it. Carl Berger. Tune in. Carl Berger and Company. So this is Gary Burton, Times Square. This is probably 1978. 1978 on ECM. Gary Burton, another cat who I think is still with us. I'm not sure. Awesome, awesome vibraphone player. He is spectacular. I haven't listened to much Gary Burton, but this is another one on ECM. Gary Burton Quartet. This is on a German issue copy. Through these records, I gotta say he is fantastic. And I think there was a time where I started to put a lot of Gary Burton on my want list on Discogs, and yeah, I want to say he started in the '60s perhaps, or maybe a little bit earlier, and he went on there to record a ton and probably a lot on ECM. But yeah, this is all I have of Gary Burton. Let me know down in the comments what I should listen to in terms of Gary Burton, because I think out of all of these, the one musician that sort of stumped me is Gary Burton. But his playing is fantastic. I mean, this is later '70s, and it's great. Another one that I'm somewhat familiar with, but I picked this one up. This was a blind buy, probably a few years now. Um, and this is the only record I have of his. Is this guy right here, Charlie Shoemake. This is a freaking awesome record. So this was put out in 1983 on Discovery, and this was a blind buy for me when I first bought it at Amoeba because I recognized Tommy Flanagan and Paul Motion were on here. More so Tommy Flanagan. Charlie Shoemake is one of those cats that I will say is highly, highly, highly underrated. I think he had a couple of more records on Discovery. I could be wrong, but this right here is jam packed. This record is so good. Even the mastering, I believe Rudy Van Gelder is the engineer on here. Yeah, he is. So let me show you guys clearly. So this is the lineup right there. Hopefully you guys can see that. Charlie Shoemake, I think, had an album with Kenny Barron and Cecil McBee, probably. This is one that I got for cheap, and I think you can still find for cheap. Stream it online. I think there are a couple of tunes of on this album that you can stream, but this is so good. I gotta tell you guys, the playing style on here is very hard bop, maybe post bop, but this is this is not that, um, how should I say it? This is not that smooth jazz that you would think, because it's in the 80s. You would probably assume that it's, smooth. Nothing at all to that manner. I mean, you have guitar on here, you have trumpet, you have vibes. This I'm so happy to have. And I'm so happy that I revisited this album to make this video, because when I spun this, I was like, holy S. This is so good. But yeah, this is one that I highly, highly recommend people have in the collection. If you guys do have that in the collection, let me know down in the comments below, so that, if you're more familiar with Charlie Shoemake than I am, leave suggestions, because I want more Charlie Shoemake, whether as a leader or a sideman. Just put them down in the comments below. Alright, so the last two who made it in the thumbnail, I when I first heard of these two young cats, I was like, I'm in, because I've loved the vibraphones ever since I've heard it. So the first cat that I gotta show here, um, who I think this year he put out this album on Blue Note. Who am I talking about? The first one, Joel Raw's New Blues. This is a double disc on 33, and it is fire. Um, a couple original compositions by him, and I think two were probably like Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane. This is another cat that plays with soul. I mean, all of these other cats, they play with soul, but this, I mean, in the modern day, I'm glad that that these cats play with soul as well, because this is a very, very groovy for me, which I enjoy. And man, I remember first hearing the announcement of this, and when I when I streamed it, I was like, vibraphone player, I want it. But there are a number of tunes on here. Of course, it's double disc, 33, and yeah, I am very, very happy. You can pick this one up for, I think, under $40. So Joel Ross is a cat that I want more stuff. I think he probably has a couple more albums out there that are also on Blue Note, but I'm happy to start off with this one, New Blues, recent release, the time of this recording. Pick it up. And last but not least, we have a female jazz musician who plays the vibraphones and is just absolutely outstanding. This is one that I've been wanting for some time now, and I knew I couldn't make this video until I bought this record, and not disappointed one bit. I've been streaming this one all the time before purchasing this album. I'm very, very happy to have this next one finally in my collection on JMI, the one, the only Sasha Berliner Onyx. This one was put out, I think, in 2022. Recorded, I think it says right there, 2021. And I am so happy to have this finally. And I hope Sasha puts out more stuff on vinyl. I know she is really, in terms of recording, she likes to perform, have her own gigs. But yeah, I want more of this, especially on JMI. This is so good. Very contemporary. You have this like spiritual essence in her music. It is absolutely wonderful. Sasha is a young cat. She's a couple years older than me, but she's still young. She is one that I know she's gonna be one of the best in the modern era of jazz music. But yeah, this is the last one that I wanted to show on here. Stream Sasha Berliner, and definitely stream Joel Ross. Stream their music. They need some love, like all of these vibraphone musicians do. And yeah, if you guys stuck this far, let me know down in the comments what you guys thought, and Let me know down if you guys have any of these albums, if you guys have a favorite, if you guys would like to recommend me anything else that I hadn't shown. Let me know. Until next time.